Hello, everyone, and welcome back to today's webinar. Now, today we're going to be talking about coding and what are the perceptions around coding careers. Now, where's this coming from? This is coming from my conversations with a number of people, and particularly this one conversation I had, which really astounded me. Right, so I was at a restaurant in Cape Town, and I started talking to the waitress about IT varsity and about a career in coding. And that's what I do because I'm a salesman, I'm a businessman, and I'm a salesman. So I spoke to her, and then she said something very astounding. She said, there's a cousin of mine who studied IT, but she's sitting at home and she can't get a job. And I don't think IT is a good career to get into. That's the one thing. Then I had some other conversations with people who feel that coding is for geniuses. Coding is just too difficult for people to get into, like it's rocket science or something. So I just want to clarify all that. And today, as usual, I've got Talha here with me, and we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be clarifying a lot of the misconceptions around coding as a career. And I hope that more of you who are watching this video will consider it as a serious career option, because it is probably one of the fastest growing careers still. After 30 years, it's still growing and growing and growing, and no one knows when, if ever, the demand for coders is going to end. I know there's a whole lot of talk about AI, like ChatGPT, that is able to write code, but trust me when I tell you, as a software engineer myself, AI is only capable of doing so much. The rest is going to be done by human beings well into the foreseeable future. So tell us about it. What are some of your experiences in terms of the conversations you had around coding?
Cool. So when it comes to coding, right, and or getting into careers in coding, one of the most common questions we get, and this is from everyone, from anyone who's wanting to sign up for our course, one of the first questions they ask us is, will I manage? Right? It's viewed as something that's extremely difficult, and as you mentioned, and a lot of people, even though they have this interest in it, there's this resistance, this fear, this kind of barrier in their mind that they seem to need to get out of. So where do you think this comes from, this inherent fear of coding?
So I think it's a fear of the unknown. I think it's just classically a fear of the unknown, and also the misconceptions that's been portrayed both by schools and by the media. Now, let's start with the media, right? In the media, when you look at movies, when you look at series, who are the IT people there? You'll get this genius-looking guy with a very high IQ, with a thick glasses. Typically, that's the stereotypical IT professional. But it's not like that at all, because the most ordinary, mundane type looking people, or cool and hip looking people, are also into IT, such as the nerds, like how we've been shown in the media. So that's one. The other thing is school, and there lies a lot of society's problems, right? It lies in schools, because what schools do is that they exacerbate a very negative perspective on IT as a career. Well, pretty much everything, right? Not just IT, but particularly in IT, for a number of reasons. First and foremost, when you look at the coding career at schools, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's such a dead duck of a subject. I mean, South African schools still teach Delphi as a programming language. And Delphi passed away in the early 2000s, maybe around 1999, 2000. Nobody uses Delphi anymore. But South African schools, for some odd reason, and I tried fighting against this. I went up to the Department of Education. I said, you cannot teach children Delphi. You have to teach them something like Java or C#, .NET, something that's current, or even Python. Even though I'm not a very big, proponent of Python myself, I won't say it's a bad language. It's just that I haven't dabbled in it. But even that would be better than freaking Delphi, which is a dead language. So schools in that level, in that way, they kill IT. Then the other way they kill IT is that when you look at the school curriculum, and I know because I taught the subject at school level also, and I even ran workshops for educators, for other teachers on how to teach coding. It is such a boring, drab subject that you feel like dying. It's such a horrible subject. It's so full of nonsensical learnings that the projects are not well defined. The teachers themselves are confused. The learners themselves are even more confused. It's no reflection of the life, the real life version of what a career in coding is like. I mean, it's a lot different.
On top of that, when we visited schools and we saw the way they were teaching coding, they had these massive, giant textbooks, right? But in my opinion, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, coding is a very practical subject. So I mean, while the theory is important, someone once said, I think that someone might have been you even, you don't learn to walk by reading a book on walking, right? You learn to walk by getting up and taking your first steps.
Yeah. So look, I having lectured, and I still lecture at universities, right? This much I'll say, there is place for a certain amount of theory. I mean, things like data structures, understanding data structures, that's one of the most underrated learnings in the software the engineering space. And also concepts like what is object-oriented programming, what are best practices when you're doing OO programming, or programming in general. So there is space for an amount of theory. But I agree what you're saying also, that they attempt to teach coding from books. And as usual, the paradigm they use is one of factual recall. They try to get people to memorize code. Look, I've been coding since I was 10 years old. That's almost coming on 40 years. And I still can't remember the concepts. Even if I'm coding HTML or CSS, I still have to Google up the concepts, because the job of my brain is not to remember these concepts, but to use them in the most appropriate spaces. But the way the exams are structured at schools, it's a whole lot of factual recall. So at school, even at university, you are studying, I think, about maybe 80 to 90% theory and about 10% practice, where it should be the other way around. The equation should be changed, 90% practice and 10% theory. That's what coding is all about. That's what software engineering is all about. So my appeal to anyone that's watching this is, don't go with what you've seen in the media. Don't go with what you've been taught at school. In fact, people ask me, should I have done coding at school before doing entrepreneur, for example, before studying at IT varsity? And I think my response is this: you'll be better off if you didn't do coding at school, because those that did coding at school have already got a very negative mindset about what the subject entails. So what I would appeal to anyone is, don't fall back on that. And it doesn't have to be an unknown. At IT varsity, you go to the website, there's a lot of free coding courses that we offer. Try it for yourself. Give it a test drive. See what it's all about. It's the most amazing thing you can do. I mean, coding unlocks so much of mystery around the devices that we use on a day-to-day basis. When you touch an icon and open up an app, there's code involved there. What's happening? How does it work? When you open up a website, there's code involved there. When you on your microwave oven, there's code involved there. So learning to code unlocks that mystery of this unknown universe of technology, because pretty much all the tech runs code. So my appeal to anyone, try something out. Try out some of our free courses, or go on YouTube, try out some coding courses. Everyone should do at least one coding tutorial, one basic coding tutorial, because it'll give you a real, true insight into what it's all about.
Yeah, but I mean, also going into that, I think another major point that people get stuck at is, what should they learn when it comes to coding? Because I mean, IT is a massive field. I mean, it's in every single industry, and even within just IT alone, you got AI, you got robotics, you got cybersecurity, and the list just goes on. So it's intimidating to think about. And then so someone wanting to get into this, they see this list and, okay, where do I start? Which one of these do I go into? So yeah, where would you suggest someone who just wants to get a foot into that door?
So that's a whole conversation in itself, right? And not all of the topics that you just mentioned involve coding. Like cybersecurity doesn't involve coding at all. Maybe a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of scripting here and there, but nothing really coding related. But if you're looking at software engineering, you're looking at app development, if you want to start a business doing around an app, then I think coding is definitely a career for you to get into. Even web design requires coding. So web design, app development, software development, whether you're building software for the web or software for a computer, these all entail coding. And it's a very, very lucrative career. Let me put it this way. You don't have to guess, you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to get a job as a coder, because there's a global shortage of coders, and there's a even bigger shortage in South Africa. That's why we are importing the skills, the coding skills. I mean, I was at the airport recently in Johannesburg, and there was this whole bunch of guys from India sitting there and waiting for a flight. And when I inquired about who they were, these guys were a bunch of coders from India that came down to South Africa because some company wanted to they want to develop a solution, so they brought these guys. So they're bringing coders from India and Bangladesh and Northern Europe to do coding work in South Africa because there's a shortage in our country. So now that's something to consider. That's something very important for everyone to consider. That is a very lucrative career path. If you want to get into other fields of IT, like tech support and cybersecurity, in fact, there's another burgeoning field in IT related to security, but not cybersecurity. In fact, we're in negotiations with a company right now to develop a series of courses on property security. I don't know if what's the right word for it, but beg your pardon. Installation of camera systems, integrated security solutions for a property, for a home, for a physical property. So it includes everything from electric fences that actually have a sensor in it. So when the wire is cut, the wire of that fence is cut, then it triggers off an alarm, and that is sort of integrated with the camera system, and that's integrated with the alarm system, and that's integrated with facial recognition software, and a whole lot of things. So what's happening now is, in a nutshell, the age of security guards is coming to an end, right? You don't need a security guard constantly walking around any premises. What's happening is that guards are sitting at a remote location, and they are observing the property through these AI-driven camera systems. And if there's anything that goes wrong in the property, they are able to respond from where they are. So that's a burgeoning field. And soon IT Varsity will be introducing courses related to that. So, I mean, IT is such an amazing space, such an interesting space. And I would recommend anybody, if you are confused about what to study, don't think twice. Get into IT.
Cool. So yeah, that's my next question. How? What is the best way, in your opinion, to get into IT? Right? Let's just say I want to start learning right now. Where should I start?
What else am I going to say? IT Varsity. IT Varsity. Look,
of course.
If someone look, the way we've designed the Entrepreneur course, and there's such a nice experience we had at one of our partner institutes, where I was speaking to the academic manager, And she said something really amazing. She said, this entrepreneur cause is so amazing that we've got children that are coming from township schools who've never touched a computer before. And we've got students who are coming from Model C schools, from the private schools, who have had all the experience and all the exposure to computers and coding and things. Yet, the both of them come to our campus and they start entrepreneur, and they both find that it's meant for them. It's suited to them. How is it possible that a person has 0% coding experience and a person has that much coding experience, both start the same course and find that there's something there for them, that they are both coping and they are both enjoying the course? And the answer that I gave her was, we designed this course in such a way that anybody can get started with it and roll with it. It's just designed in that way. We don't take anything for granted. We start at absolute basics, but we don't dwell on the basics too long. And everything is project based, right? So we start with some basic concepts, and then we jump into a project. In the next module, we do the same thing. Start with some basic concepts, jump into the projects. And in each module, you build at least one or two, sometimes maybe even 3 projects. Now, why is this so important? It's because people don't like learning things just for the sake of it, right? You don't want to learn, for example, I don't know, just how to cut wood or how to hammer a nail or use a screwdriver. I know those are basic skills, but that's what happens at schools and universities. They teach concepts just for the sake of it. What will be more fun, using the carpentry analogy, is if somebody is teaching you how to create a beautiful desk for you to study at. Now, if I said I can teach you, I will teach you how to build a desk that will be both a sit-down and a stand-up desk. Let's get started. Now, you're still learning the concepts of how to measure and cut and how to hammer and apply glue and screws and all of that. But you're learning it within the context of building this application, which is a desk. So that's the approach that we use at Entrepreneur, in the Entrepreneur course. Every single module is a build up towards a final application, a real world application that you're building, and not some dummy application that you just do in a sandbox kind of software where you just draw things up. No. This is an actual application which you then deploy to the internet, where you can share the link with anybody you want. You've got an auntie across the ocean in down under in Australia. You can send her the link and say, this is what I've made. Or you could show it to prospective employers and say, look, I studied Entrepreneur at ITversity, and these are the 20 or so solutions that I built in 1 year. And that in itself is remarkable, to build that many apps in 1 year. And then if you want to start your own business, you can show that to potential clients. So every student builds a portfolio of the work that they've done. And that's what makes Entrepreneur so different from any other coding course. And then, of course, there's the mentorship that you receive from myself and the success mentors. And then on top of that, there's this webinars. I mean, I don't know a single online course that has a weekly webinar, a weekly touch points to bring people up to date with what's going on in that world. Because as much as Entrepreneur is a really advanced coding course, but the thing with coding, with any technology, is that it gets outdated and new things come about, new technologies. So we use this webinar to update our students on what's going on in the world of technology, like ChatGPT. I mean, when we designed Entrepreneur, there was no such thing as ChatGPT, and now we're up to ChatGPT 4. So how do these technologies affect our students? These are the kind of things we discuss in this webinar, which in itself is very, very unique and unusual. So if anybody is thinking to get started, I would say go to the ITversity website. There's a lot of free content there where you build actual apps. And did I mention it's free? Build actual apps, learn about it, and get a feel for it. And then go on to the internet and do a search on coding careers and look at how much coders earn, both at an entry level and also in advance. And you will be astounded. You will be shocked to see how much they actually earn.
Cool. I mean, personally, I can vouch for the entrepreneur course because we've had students come in who had literally no experience with a computer. So there's this one guy I remember. He came to us and he didn't even know how to operate a PC properly, right? So he came with his laptop and he opened it up, and I asked him to create a new folder for his projects, and he asked me how. He didn't even know how to do that. But we were not ones to shy away from a challenge, and we worked with him. He came to the office every day for a good few months. And yeah, within a year, he graduated the entrepreneur course, and he was developing complete apps and websites from the ground up. It was that gradual approach where it starts off easy and then gets harder and harder as time goes on, and that mentorship, obviously. And
yeah, absolutely. I think it's the most gratifying thing, and this is a problem in South Africa, right, where there's this big gap between the haves and the have-nots. And entrepreneur is designed for everyone, not just for the haves, not somewhere where you go in and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? This is not for me. Goodbye. I'm gone. It's there for everyone. It's there to bridge that gap. But enough about us and entrepreneur. Let's go to the comments. Read out the comments. Let me know what's going on there.
Cool. So someone says, the problem is even the teachers are afraid of computers in schools, which I think is true. I think a lot of the teachers in schools, they have the syllabus and they just know how to teach that. And when it comes to anything outside of that, like real world applications, they're not extremely experienced. And so they can't really provide a lot of support or give students answers that they need.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't blame the teachers, right? These subjects are thrust on them. Remember, these people have been trained in something completely different. They've been trained in education, and now you take them and you expect them to teach code, and worse of all, you teach them to read other people's code and debug other people's code. It's difficult because your training is different. If those people were trained as software developers and then they were put into a classroom, that would have been a different situation. And hence, I feel it's very unfair. And that highlights the government's, South African government's efforts to introduce coding at schools. What's their approach? To teach teachers how to code and go back to the class and code. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. In the age of e-learning, they should consider using e-learning, where learners learn online, just like with IT Varsity, where they learn online, submit their work online, and the work is assessed by specialists online. They are demanding too much of teachers, really, and I feel sorry for the teachers.
Yeah. But and that impacts obviously how students will then perceive the subject going forward. But really, they are doing the best they could, and schools also work with tight budgets, so they don't have the ability to hire IT professionals to come and work and teach their students. So yeah, it's I think that online learning is the best way to address that situation, because you could have an institute like IT Varsity producing content here in Durban, but schools across the country have access to it. And, it's the most up-to-date version of those technologies we're teaching. And the schools don't have to then lay out that extra money to hire someone. It's all provided to them, including all of the support and all of the feedback and all of the assessments. So yeah, I mean, I think that's just the best way to address this problem.
Yeah, and you highlighted something that's very close to my heart, which is that e-learning actually levels the playing field for everyone, right? I mean, we've had students in KwaNyuswa, that's between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. It's such a rural area. and students in Johannesburg City Center and Cape Town City Center who studied entrepreneur, and they all studied the same thing. There wasn't a different in levels. You know, they say the best teachers are found in the cities and rural kids get the butt of everything. That is true, but not with IT varsity, because everyone gets the exact same level of education, the exact same level of mentorship and guidance, and there's no difference. We don't differentiate between them. So that's very very important to me and close to my heart. Any more comments? I want to see comments. I want to hear what.
We have one more. We have a few more. Says the way kids are traditionally introduced to computers is not aligned with real world problems, so the applications always seem far-fetched.
100%, 100%. And I, as a software engineer, can vouch for that. Real world problems are so damn exciting, so interesting. I mean, to be sitting, and this was one of my greatest joys, and still is when I'm developing anything, especially when I was still doing it professionally, was that we were solving a problem for somebody. You know, there was a software system that we wrote. It was just one teammate and I, while I was working for a company, and this system, all it did was it exposed a form for people working in clinics around, I think it was around the country, and it would capture that data and store that data in a database in the proper places, and then it would report on that data. It's a simple application, but for me, it was very, very gratifying because this was part of national healthcare. This data was coming from clinics around the country where they were actually capturing data about the clients, and you know what they were, what's the medical records and things like that, or what allergies, what they've been treated for, etc. It was such a gratifying experience. It was an ordinary Java database-driven application, but for me, it was us really making an impact in this country.
Exactly, and I mean, we just got another comment that came in that's, I mean, related exactly to this. It's that with the rate that technology moves, the rate of progress in the world, schools and their syllabuses just can't keep up, and that's just a fact. So by the time, you know, they get to updating everything and then retraining everyone across the country, it's a very demanding task.
It is. It's demanding, and unfortunately, who is the one, or who are the people that are designing these curriculums? It's academics, people who have never spent a day out there developing. They just sort of think up what's required. I mean, look at the entry requirements for software development at universities. They make it so difficult, right? At school, you need to do maths and you need to score a certain mark in maths to get into computer science. Why? That's my question. My question is why? I have been a software engineer for decades now, and I've never used the maths that we are taught at school or at university anywhere in my career. And I'm an award-winning app developer. You know, I'm not saying this out of pride. I'm saying this to prove that you don't need any of this unnecessary complexity, this unnecessary red tape. And that's one of the things that really frustrates me about schools and universities. These are artificial constructs that people made just to create barriers for people to get into certain careers. But we don't worry about that, because at IT Varsity, no matter who you are, our doors are always open, and we don't play with these fake barriers and fake levels. It's here. It's open for everyone and anyone.
Mm-hmm. And I think one more point to that is at IT Varsity, we don't really have enrollment periods. Because we are completely online, you can sign up anytime you want and get started at any point. So you can get started right now if you want to.
Yeah, we have what you call a rolling enrollment system where you can enroll at any time of the year, and you just grouped up with students in that time of the year.
Cool. So I think with that, we should start winding down. We are 4 minutes over time. Again, thank you for everyone who joined today, and thank you for all of the comments. Do you have any final things, any final words?
Yeah, I think I just opened up the comments myself. I see there's a couple of other comments came in, but it's like you say, we've run out of time. I wish I could stay. I mean, there's a question from Makwana that's who asks, what is coding? Zoya said, is it too late to start with IT Varsity? Zoya, it's not too late. You can enroll at any time. Get started right now with Entrepreneur for free and see how it is. Go do module 0, see how it is, see how you feel, and let us know. And we can help you to get started with your studies. Somebody loves Talha's new hairstyle. Awesome stuff.
Oh.
Let's leave it at Talha's hairstyle, and then we'll catch you guys next week.